Good go. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Hamish, for filling in for Dylan today.
No problem.
And we have an apology from Mari.
Leave of absence.
Leave of absence. Right. And welcome back, Robbie. We've missed your presence for a couple of minutes.
Back of the
Okay, health and safety, you all know the exits, the green running man is where you head to, and then head out to the St John's building up the coast. Vince wants early departure at say about 11:45. Do we need to approve that?
Yep, it's an apology for
Okay, so someone like to move?
I'm happy to move.
Thank you. Actually, where's your name tag, Vanessa?
Oh,
Take that one. Seconder?
Robbie, thank you. Robbie, are you seconding that
Robbie
motion?
seconded that.
second that, yep.
Thank
All
you.
those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Conflict of interest. Does anyone have any conflict of interest? No. And we're live streamed. Any announced urgent business? No, I'm good. Okay, we'll move on to the confirmation of the minutes on the 22nd of October. I'll do a page 2 and 4 matters of accuracy. Page 1, page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Would someone like to move that they have a true and accurate record of those minutes? Fiona? Dave, seconded. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. So we'll move on to our, actually, what do we have? We have one decision item and the rest and then discussion items. So on page 9. Oh, actually, yeah. Would somebody like to, just regarding the public excluded minutes, if no one has anything regarding matters arising, actually I didn't do matters arising from those minutes. So,
No.
coming back to this PE item, would somebody like to move that is a true and accurate record of those minutes? And if there's any discussion, we could go into thank you, but all those in favour say aye. Thank you. Carried. Thank you. So that's the PE dealt with. Thank you. So just regarding matters arising for those minutes, I was actually going to jump ahead of that, but we'll do that. Vince.
Just on the Muscles Road, is there a time set for residents to come back to us, or we're going to be sitting there in 3 years' time waiting for them to know if they're for us paying their half or not?
My understanding is, I'll let Hamish.
No, sure.
My understanding is that it's with the, it's gone beyond us now. Is that right? It's with the full council. So where we're at with that is there's a few things need to be worked through.
Yes. Yep. But essentially, we'll go to the residents, officers will go to the residents and do a survey, make sure that it's done in an unbiased manner, and that we are, getting a result.
Yeah, I just was a timeline, really.
Yep. It'll just take a bit of putting together, because what the residents will need to know in the survey is what are they actually signing up for. So we just need to make sure we get the legals right on that. It's actually where it becomes real for them.
That's why it's asking us. Just
Through you, Mr. Chair. So that is staying with council now. It won't be coming back to this committee. So
you make a recommendation. to
Yep.
council.
And the council.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll carry on doing page 2 with matters arising. So we're at page 4. Page 5. 6. 7. And 8. So no more matters arising. Thank you. Look, we'll move on to page 9. Marshman Road 4. So are you taking us through this, Hamish?
Will, Mr. Chair, first of all, I'll take it as read, but Marshman's Road, for those that don't know, runs off Maskell Road and heads over towards Ashley Forest. So it's runs largely parallel to the main Rangiora-Amberley road. It gets quite a bit of use. It notes in the paper there are 190 vehicles a day, so it's a relatively high use for a relatively small middle road. And there are about I think 30 residents, 14 on one side and 16 on the other. So this is a question for the committee about what we want to do with this Ford. The officer's recommendation is that we remove the Ford and return it to being a soft bottom Ford. That's the cheapest option. Option 2 is to repair by removing the concrete base, rebuild the structure underneath and backfilling the downstream section and unblocking the low flow culvert. And that's a $34,000 to $40,000 job. Or option 3, carry out the repair by excavating below the Ford, putting a temporary retaining wall, projecting the substructure of flowable concrete, putting an erosion control on the downstream section and removing the low flow culvert. That's going to be the greatest durability option, and that's a $38,000 to $45,000 job. So the reason this is before you really is that as part of our cutbacks from our original LTP, originally we had sufficient funding allocated to improve the operation of a number of Fords, including this one. But with the budget reduction from that money not coming through NZTA, this is a decision that we thought we'd bring to the committee to have a look at and say, what do you think? Because it's essentially, yes, we can do it, and yes, it will attract an NZTA subsidy, but it's where you think it ranks in the system as far as this type of work goes. It's the level of service versus a capital cost trade-off. So I might leave it there. The officer's recommendation, as I said, is to revert to a soft bottom Ford. That's the cheapest option, but that's also the lowest level of service option.
Okay, look, thank you, Hamish, for filling us in on that. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to actually have a look at this Ford in real life. So I believe, Robbie, you had a chance this morning.
Yeah, I
to go
was
down
trying
and
to set
have a look.
myself up.
So I'd be interested to hear everyone's thoughts on this. I certainly have an opinion on it, and but I'd like to hear everyone else's thoughts on this initially. So do you want to kick us off, Robbie?
Yes, I can. Sorry, I'm just sitting myself, so maybe we might be able to put it on a bigger thing to look at. Yeah, we had a look this morning because I've only got here yesterday, so a bit of a catch-up session on some of the stuff. Forestry gates open. The forestry boys use that all the time. The forestry entrance in and out of the forest is just right there, and I can see from the wet track, they're using it now. That was one thing. So and
Forestry trucks and the long trucks and stuff.
The main entrances into the Ashley Forest from this side of the hill is up Crampton's Bush Road, or in through there. That's the two way they're going in and out. Or else you go around through the Ashley up Raleigh Sprint track.
Yeah.
So it gets used that. But the other thing is, I'm sure there's a development or 6 houses. I'm not sure if it's on north or south side of the river. A while ago, we did it with the South Ward, was naming, yeah, someone's subdividing in there.
Under 5 hectares.
And up the road that the forestry goes in, I'm sure that there's the right lifestyles or something in there. So it's another area which there's more people. And that's why I can't remember, because I used to go through it regularly, when the concrete went in there. I see there's a low cost repair in 2022. Was that when the concrete went in, you know, Hamish, or?
No, it's had a concrete bottom for quite a number of years, that Ford. It,
Yeah.
it has suffered from washout on the approaches, when,
Yeah.
you know, quite often.
Because I think it did, from memory, I think it did used to be a soft bottom. And then the forestry trucks go in there and they go up in the forestry, and then there was another soft bottom one when they go through into the forestry. And forestry trucks aren't too bad, it's quite surprising where they go. But cars and that, they close it. But I thought that's getting more people on either side. And for me, I looked at the numbers, you know, and it's all dollars, I know. And I thought the monitoring, who goes and checks all the time, sees about closing or opening it and that sort of thing. I'd imagine the locals will probably still do their own thing in the Hilux to go around it. But I looked at it again this morning and I thought, when you look at one side of it, it all looks fine. It seems a shame to undo that. The downside of it, it's all scoured out. You can see what's happened. And I don't know the cost. The guys that would have looked at it, that's where these numbers have probably come from, as to me, whether or not you do some kind of a wheel or something on the downstream side to control that big scouring out. But it seems a shame to rip out the 3/4 of it, which is still good, and the upstream sort of half. And that's why I didn't know whether the engineers or whatever would go through just what they'd looked at, whether or not, you know, it'd be one of the roading guys would have to tell us what the options were. I can see that one there about putting in a retaining wall below and then basically backfilling with concrete, it sounds like, isn't it? It looks like if you can control that over spill and curling around and digging the hole, if you can wear it all.
That eroding action.
But then I thought, here we go, it's just coincidence, the location of it, but I thought we've got to be careful. I've said for a while about lifting the baseline of our roads. You know, so to me, that's where we start, is we lift the baseline and not pick here and there. And we're now talking about the possibility of taking something, you know, going backwards on some people. And I imagine if you were on the south side of that, and the supermarket and the Amberley Township's on this side, it's not a major detour. You can go detours on either side. It's not the end of the world.
And they do that with high flows, you know, when it.
Yeah, and in fact, there's another Ford. Here's the east road, just down a bit further from it. I don't know whether that stays open when it goes up or not. Probably not.
Just a question for you. Is there did you notice there's a pipe underneath?
No water coming through it. I wondered.
It blocked up
the
on
top
the
end's full. So I thought, unless it soaks through the shingle and comes out that pipe, I don't know how it was originally designed.
Normally
but
it
that
would be
pipe's
a
doing
low
nothing
flow pipe that should be open on the top side. That, but if there's a lot of gravel comes down and just needs a
I think it's still
branch to block it up, and then
yeah.
it's not doing anything.
And the pipe's only that diameter.
Yeah. Okay. No, thanks for that, Robin. Any other comments from ground?
Well, I guess a wee bit of clarity, I suppose, with the estimates that are there. Is that just the council's contribution, or does that include the subsidy?
That's the total cost of the job,
Right,
so
so
it will attract a subsidy.
50, is it 50?
52 in theory.
So the cost to council would be the low, yeah.
What's the cost to the council?
Well, if it's
52.5.
Well, 48%.
48% of 45,000, maybe.
Well, in reality, I mean, the subsidy at the moment is running at about 33%.
Right.
Because, I mean, this just comes out of the overall budget, and that's the average on the subsidy across the total budget.
Okay. The other thing, my comment, I guess, is as we've looked at been through various workshops with the roading and that type of thing, we know that we either take on debt or we look at levels of service to a certain extent. And so I think there'll be more calls like this across the district potentially. When you look at our bridge stock, government recommendation is for some of those bridges that we take them out instead of doing them and go back to forward. So apart from the details, really, it's about deciding where we go with those levels of service, isn't it?
Thank you.
Part of it feels strange to me that we're not, it's here because it's not part of a long-term plan, or it's not like this issue came up with a little medical centre with swabs, and I just can't, to me, we don't have a budget for R&M or maintenance, or, so, you know, this is like weeds, shouldn't be dealing with it, but that's because I need some clarification from Hamish. Is like it's, to me, it's an R&M thing. It's 60. If I do 190 movements for 300 days divided by the cost, it's 66 cents a crossing. So, you know, to me, just fix it. The flag that went up when you're telling me the forestry are using it. So is this crossing rated for forestry laden trucks? Again, that's a flag that goes up for the, going forward for the future. You know, I don't know, I'm not an engineer. I'm also thinking, if a forestry are using it on a major important asset to them, wonder what they'd contribute. You know, they might have gear, or they build lots of roads. Again, I'm trying to save money, probably not a, you know, if you say to them, we might take this thing out, Hamish, how keen are they going to be to help in kind or whatever? So I don't think we go backwards, we fix it and we work out how. So the two issues to me is how do we stop it happening in the future? And yeah.
Thank you, Dave. You got any comment, Hamish, on whether there's any clawback we can have with forestry? I mean, I personally doubt it, but
Yeah, too.
So we don't, and of course the trucks that use the contractors are not the owners of the forest, so you know, they could lose their contract tomorrow, so they're probably not going to be that keen to click in. And as Robbie already said, you know, forestry trucks generally handle soft bottom forwards pretty well. This is actually the residents going through there. And particularly if you've got a soft bottom forward that's been tuned up by trucks, then the residents will find it more difficult. So I don't think there's much chance of a contribution from them. As far as the comment about, you know, we should have budget for this, we did budget for it in the long-term plan, but because money's a lot tighter in the roading budget because the NZTA didn't come up with the amount of money we wanted, then we have to look at where we do cut our costs to fit. And this is the type of thing that we're looking at. Yes, officers have got delegation to make these decisions, but if we go and make these decisions and then you come back and say, well, what did you do that for? So what we're trying to do is you know, it's a small matter in the scheme of things, but we're just trying to get a feel from you where you see the trade-off between cost and level of service.
No, I suppose it's through Chair, what I'm trying to get in my mind is we don't, with something like doing up there, would we have a generic, we're going to fix some money to fix bridges or whatever that we don't, because we don't know which one, or go back to like the medical centre. We have an R&M budget for buildings, not fixing squabs because it's not in the budget. We're not fixing bloody squabs, you know. Things like that seem ridiculous to me. But you know, where I will have in my business R&M, I'm going to spend 150,000 on it. What am I going to spend on it? I've got no idea. So that's why I'm having trouble seeing something that's come back. But
so we have some budget available for forwards and maintenance of forwards. But the question is, do you spend a chunk on maintaining this particular forward, concrete bottom forward, or do you sprinkle it around like pixie dust. I mean, these, I mean, officers can make these decisions, but we're looking for guidance and we're saying, okay, we haven't got as much money in the budget for Fords as what we would have liked. Here's a Ford issue. What do you think?
Yeah.
As a through the chair, 190 movements a day. Just at 66 cents a movement, in my mind, is worth fixing.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. I'll just go to Vince, you,
Well,
and then Rob.
it's coming back to haunt you guys, because you just tar sealed a road that, how many traffic a day? You're gonna pay for half of that. And you know, I said, you're gonna have things like this, you'll have heaps of them come up, and how are you gonna pay for them? And I asked, how are you gonna pay for that? And I think the staff are asking you now, because, you know, I can see, because to me, it was a bad governance decision, and it's all coming back now.
Okay, Vince, yeah, we
No,
want
I
to
don't
talk
like
about,
that
we want to talk
recording
about
because
this issue
You're
in
going
front of us.
to, you're gonna have a lot of this happen.
Yeah, so what's your opinion on this decision?
Well, I wouldn't like to see it ripped out. I'd like to see it repaired. But I'm just finding where you're going to find, you're going to go and put another 45 FAR onto the loan we're taking out for your tar sealing.
So for 20K, essentially the council's cost of this, is that a good spend?
Well, how are you going to pay for it? I'm asking.
Okay, thank you, Vince. Robbie?
Yeah, a couple of things. Dave, it was interesting at one of the conferences a few years ago, they had a remit and it was around that question of the forestry guys, oh, they're wrecking our roads, and they wanted to see if they could work something out. And they couldn't find a recipe that worked. But in this case, I wouldn't say it's the forestry truck, the truck's problem. It's not the end of the damage, it's been flooding. You know, that's the river itself taking it out. So my concern would be around this one, would be that on either side of it, because I'm sure we did something for the South Board within the last year or two. The developments both sides, and that's only going to increase. So point made, I take Vince's point, and I think that perhaps officers are making a point here too. It is a situation, but I think in this case for our 20 grand, I'd like to see it fixed. But I'd like to be assured that the fix is a long-term fix. I'm not quite sure what this low-cost repair to what that was, whether that was just a bit of shingle one side or what.
Yeah.
But if it could be, you know, a slightly long, if we got a reasonable, I don't know, 10 years or something, 5 years, 10 years, because I think there's going to be more people going across it.
Yeah, well, thanks, Robbie. So I like to make my comments now. On page 12, you'll notice what's been spent on the Ford up to date. And I guess I'm disappointed that it's actually got to this stage, because generally you would maintain things. You see a bit of a scare happening and you deal with it before it gets to this stage. And for me to see it undercut like this, it's how long it's been like that, I have no idea. But like I say, I'm disappointed it's got to this stage. We've spent probably 80K. When you look at what's been spent per year up to 2022, and I agree with Robbie, if we can spend 20 grand and solve this problem, but we want to get 10 years out of it with not having to spend on it. So, and I know you can't predict the weather, but that would be my take on it, because when you look at what we've been tripping into this, and by taking this Ford out, it's not going to be the end of the problem at all. There will be you need to somehow stop a hole forming there, so that if it's a shingle base, there's going to be ongoing costs as well, so don't forget that. So look, my personal preference is actually to do a decent job with option 3 when you look at value for money. But we really like to know that it's going to the scare issue is going to be solved. You can backfill underneath, so that it's not undermining the concrete structure, because it looks like a reasonable concrete structure there, and there's been money put into that, and it's preventing that scare, that hole, from getting to a size where it'll undercut the work that's already it's to be done. So it's that combination on that bottom side, I think, needs to be to be done properly, and one would hope, short of any major half metre of rain in that catchment, that it would stand the test of time. So that's my thoughts, would be option 3, but I just, as Dave said, for 60 cents a traffic movement, if we can solve that problem for 20 cars, I think that's good value for money. Thoughts?
Yeah, I was say around the 21, 22, obviously a lot of money spent then, and what it does without a concrete, I remember it now, you just end up with a big drop off banks either side, it
Yeah.
takes the middle out,
Yeah.
and that's what closes it, and so you've got to get some machine back there and fill it all up, and that's, I'm guessing that's where that money's come from. But when you look at that, it's costing more each year to maintain it than, yeah, it doesn't sort of stack up, does it?
When you look at those figures, what we spend on it, 20 grand, to me, looks like a bargain. If we can get it to that level that it doesn't need ongoing maintenance. Thoughts?
So I'm just curious, and it's not in this report, but just in the bigger picture, how many Fords we've got around the district of Arcon? Yeah. I'll ask that question. Because we will start to see this come up, that's for sure, and I guess I agree, it would be a shame to lose it, and it doesn't seem to be a huge amount, although luckily these people have options. I'm just not sure what's going to come, as I say, with other Fords and our limited budget.
Thank you, Fiona. So would somebody like to put forward a motion here? I'm happy to. And my preference would be option 3, but I'd really like to know that I have the backing of everybody. There's no point in putting it if it's going to be, if it's not going to go anywhere. So general thoughts on option 3? Probably.
I would be happy to support that, you know, it's not a lot extra. But also, yeah, just to be assured that if there was another, had to be another 5 more than that to get another 5 years out of it by putting a wheel or something. The guys that do that stuff will know what to do.
Yeah.
But you know, do it once.
Yeah. Thank you, Robbie. Dave, any comments?
Just how do we fund it? So it's 20,000 out of operations, is it?
Yep, it's operational budget.
So there'll be 20,000 that can't be, it's got to come from somewhere else.
So to do the option 1, what are you saying, Vince, that we're
No, I'm just
find
saying-
15 grand, that we wouldn't find that either?
No, well, it's costing us. We haven't got any money in the budget for to do any of it, have we? A wee bit.
Yeah, we've got money in the budget, we just don't have, we had a program in the budget, that's not funded. But money can move around in the budget, so you know, you spend it here, it means you haven't got to spend on it somewhere else in the future. That's all.
Yeah, we're just going to be stacking it up, aren't we, really?
Yeah.
So on that theory, Vince, if we were doing option 1 and it was going to cost us 15k to remove it.
Well, we're still taking it from the same bucket, aren't we? We're still going to be behind.
Yeah.
So I support fixing it properly if we're going to do anything. But I'm just asking, you know, where the funding was coming from.
Yeah.
So it's coming out of operations, and we're going to find by the time we get to this time next year, we could have several, probably 450k that we might need.
Depending on
Surely
the
if I did some work, something else might not happen, they might not replace signs, or they might not do something else. Something will be dropped out.
Okay, look,
Not build $1 million Christmas tree outside, just like, oh.
okay, thank you for that. Fiona, would you?
Chair, I think if I'm happy to support fixing it if we fix it properly, and I'd like them to make sure that they look at it to give it that longevity letting the engineers decide whether we would help or not. As far as budget, every year we move things around, we delay some projects, we find ways to make it work, staff do a very good job of shuffling things and letting us know when we're pushing it, but we do also need to take into consideration that we are going to continue to have to make these move around decisions. But I was.
Thank you, Fiona. Look, so on that note, I'd like to move that option 3 is the recommendation. And do we have a seconder for that?
I'll second it. Yeah.
So all those in favour, are you happy with the wording of option 3 there? Everyone happy with the wording of option 3?
Yes, I note that it says installing erosion control, so I'll take it.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
So anyone like to speak for or against, or just happy to go with all those in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay, motion is carried. Thank you for that. So we'll move on to page 14, campgrounds overview. Now this was a Dan Harris.
Yep, well, even actually wrote the paper, but this
Yeah.
this is a general overview, responding to some of the concerns that people had about the way that campgrounds were working. So there has been a decline in fees in some campgrounds over the past few years. The Honesty Box system has been replaced at some campgrounds by a digital payment system, which was previously known as Kiwi Cash, is now known as Penny, and they provide some technology as well. There are some concerns about that, and there have been some discussions, but we think that there needs to be more engagement and further investigation and planning to implement changes that will improve the profitability of campgrounds. So, this current situation, campgrounds working on leases are working reasonably well. You know, we have little bits and pieces, but generally, the campground lessees run the campground, and there's no major problems. Where the Kiwi Camp concept has been put in place, the main responsibility still lies with the local advisory groups in terms of council's delegations. There is no TIF funding available currently, and being issues, I guess, with customers, campers complaining about the fees being too high, the facilities, vandalism, etc. They're all attached, and occasionally we get damage, theft, and vandalism. So that happens from time to time. We have spoken with a number of the interested community groups. Generally, there's a trend in the right direction from a revenue perspective, so there was an initial drop-off. And that's probably down to a number of factors. You know, the systems are not being really with their payments. When we did this, we did quite a few long-term people out of some of these campgrounds, and all they chose to move because of the NAF to pay, which they didn't particularly like. FOBs issue seems to be easing now. And I guess looking for improvements at those Kiwi campsites that historically have best performance when there has been somebody on site that's been keeping an eye on things. Normally in the past, council officers have only been involved when there's situations which have escalated at these campgrounds, and there is no budget for that. So there could be a way of getting local people to take some of those roles. Some of these campgrounds could be fully managed by Penny rather than by council, so operating more akin to a leased camping situation. Freedom camping is an issue around Amberley Beach. One issue that has been raised is the long-term storage parking of caravans, which would enable customers to leave their caravans on the site. Caravan storage apparently is something that a number of camping areas make money from. The Pines Holiday Park at Hanmer, the lease on that is coming out. Sorry, the lease on that came up in October 2019, and it will be coming up for a 3-yearly review of the lease, which is currently $15,000. Goulburn and Buxton, that's just been renewed until 26 at $7,000 a year, and the lessee has an option to renew for a further term of 3 years at market rent. Leithfield Beach, the lease expired about 2016, and extension was granted in 2021, which has expired, and negotiation for a new lease is in process. Until then, the lease continues on a monthly basis, the current rent of minimum $500 with 10% of turnover, which is the highest. Colverton, you can see the numbers there on an annualised basis. Noting that the penny system came in 23-24, so you are seeing a slight drop there. Waikari, similarly, Waikari actually it used to be quite high, but it's dropped considerably. 23-24.
So
although it was closed for part of that time when they were doing some building work there.
So through the chair, there is quite a fundamental difference between Colverton and Waikari. With Colverton has got a high living on site that's, you tuned me here the other day once for quite a period of, to me it's showing that it's working because he's actually looking after it, very passionate. And look at Colverton versus Waikari.
I mean, Waikari, to be fair, was a bit variable. In 2018, you look at $27,000 and say, well, that's good, but it was less than half of that in 2019, and 2020 up again in 21, down again in 22, and then considerably down 23, 24. 11 months from December 23 to October 24, the income sits at 13,000, so it's on the up again. Amberley Beach, obviously the income had declined there in 23, and 23-24 the penny system came in. So that one I think is, I mean, it's really hard to tell how much of the income, was declining anyway, until the impacts of COVID. When that happened, we depopulated some of our campgrounds, not all of them. And numbers came back a bit generally in 21, but have been on the slide 23-24. Now, whether there are less people travelling because they don't have the money or what's going on, we're not 100% sure. Scargill Mutt, now we don't have good clear figures on Scargill Mutt now, but for the 11 months from December 23, it looks like it's ticking over okay. And the river is obviously free camping, it's very popular. Putting a donation box in there. Waitoa Reserve, there's no lease on that. The last lease expired about 2 years ago. Whanganui Mount, honesty box system managed by the local community. The funds get handed into the council office and get banked. Mutnell Beach, managed by the Ratepayers Association, who collect the bank fees. Harden Reserve, which is Park Campground, is a honesty box system managed by the local community. Once again, they're banked by us. And Balmoral is managed by a charitable trust. There's no formal agreement there. And we have been having ongoing discussions about deals on that site. So the report provides a summary of campgrounds, and what it shows is a bit of a mixed picture. Yes, we did experience some drop off in revenue that coincided with the introduction of the Kiwi Cash system. Yes, we did have a number of problems initially. They seem to have settled down considerably. The revenue seemed to be picking back up again on the penny system. Yeah, there are things that could be done, such as appointing people as custodians, or the local community playing a role in the custodianship of the campgrounds, if that's what we want to do.
Thank you, Hamish, for the report. I'll open to comments. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Just a comment, I guess. One of the issues that was raised at the time we were looking at putting the Kiwi Camp in was that a number of communities were taking on debt in order to put it in place. And so the question at the time was, they believed, or they felt that they were going to make enough income off the new system to pay off the debt. So from my point of view, I'm just more curious about how they're servicing their debt, and is the money coming in doing what they thought it would do, and if it's not, what are the learnings and what can we change about it? And that's probably more the reason I wanted to have an understanding of how they were going.
I think it's fair to say that no community has seen a huge uptick, except with the exception of Scarborough, which is really hard to know what the money was before. So, so those communities that have used debt won't have seen a huge uptick, but whether economic conditions are depressing use of those campgrounds as well, we're not sure.
And that's just the concern, because that adds to, that'll be covered by the rates, I'm guessing, or amenities. And if the community's happy to do that, that's fine, but whether there are lessons to be learned, and I agree, it could be economic times, so certainly not great. People have got less money, it could be a part of the system, and it's worthwhile having a report like this to have a look and see what the learnings are, because the debt's there regardless. But if it comes to renewing this equipment, I don't know whether there's a period of time, or a longer period of time, where we could look for a pattern. But at some stage, some of this equipment will have to be renewed, and is it the best system? So I just think that that's something we need to keep an eye on.
Yep.
And certainly with any, because TIF funding comes up for a lot of things, and we just don't know always how it's going to go. So I just think that's something we need to bear in mind when we take it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona. Vince.
Just on the Haranui Mouth camp, the honesty box, it's actually not our land, it's Lynn's land that the camp's on.
Some of the land's our land.
Yeah, but most of it is.
Some of it's in the river,
And bit of the actual amenity blocks, are they on?
our land.
Because you just wonder about spending money on upgrading it when you might be better to shift it to a better site.
Yeah, well, I'm sure the community will tell us if they want it shifted.
Yeah, thank you, Vince. I've just got a comment on page 16, and 17 there, and just regarding the Amberley Beach, and it's not a person's name, but it's a showed interest in takeover of full management of Amberley Beach. So for something like that to happen, that would work with the local community, Abra, outside of council, that can sort of weigh and or even just get final sign off from us. Is that how that would work?
Well, it would go through the South Ward.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
we're just trying to present a holistic picture across the district.
Yes.
You know, the concerns have been raised, and so we didn't want to just deal with issues in isolation.
Yes,
Through the chair, I suppose it's all like the gems of the camping grounds, is like, you know, the Balmoral, which is a charitable trust. It's heaving at times. And so I think that the hard economic times actually make it affordable for families to go to camping grounds like Hines or Amberley or Balmoral or whatever. So somehow, I don't know, you know, promoting those ones or whatever to try and work the income stream seems important to me. And then the other ones like Waikauri, I don't know Waikauri, because you've got those people that are in Harden that are, it's where they live, and they move around. It's, you got those, what do you call them, semi-permanent people. And then you got a lot of people that are working in the vineyards that are there. So there's some type of, the community probably has struggled with doing it, but it may be the Colvin model or whatever, what you're talking Amberley, having someone that's a semi-permanent top or permanent person there, as part of him living there, is looking after and the custodian of a camp. There's a good one for us all.
Yeah.
But the tourist, is that a tourist camping ground? I doubt it, but maybe a place to stop on the way through.
yeah,
It's
thank you.
not like freeloaders, the ones that, you know, as I alluded to you,
Yeah,
they figure out how to stay at Waikauri for nothing.
yeah. Thank you, Dave, for that, and thank you for the this report. I think it's been very informative, and as with, oh, sorry, Robbie, I'll go to you and then Robbie.
Yeah, for me, I'm very interested, yes, like you, Ross, I think number 17, the Amberley Beach one is the biggest bump in the road, I think. Because right from the word go, the imbalance between, there's several things, between the north and the south, and quite grasp it, and reading through this it made it clearer. You know, you're paying more to be in the north part of it, and it's all fenced up and gated, you know, all the rest of it. But you've got nothing that the ones on the other side haven't got. You haven't got a hot shower in the house. And I thought, okay. And I listened to some of these complaints, and one of them I think I know who that might be, and valid points made. So I'd be very interested to hear what the community down there think around what could be done in their campground. Because the other thing, I remember right from the word go that it was changed, Leithfield said thank you very much, because they had quite a migration down to Leithfield, some of the money with hot showers and everything else. So it's kind of like at the Amberley one, whether or not money they have to spend it to make it or whatever, but you either don't charge more when you're providing less, or that balance needs looking at. And I think between the community down there and then probably via Southwood or whatever, that one probably needs a look at.
Yeah. Thank you, Robbie.
Oh, sorry, Ross. I think that's a great idea about the caravans on site, but as I've just come from Britain, where the high life is everywhere, aren't they? Security would be the only thing in an unmanned site like Amberley, people plonking their caravans there. If there's other people staying there, like Leithfield as permanents, then that's one thing, or you've got a manager or somebody keeping an eye on it. You should be worried about the liability of people getting damaged caravans or stolen or whatever. If they're an unmanned site and you've left your caravan there, who's sort of responsible? But I do see that's a big part of caravanning these days, is they plonk it on the site and then they travel to it. They don't drag it up and down the road all the time.
Thank you, Robbie. Certainly Amberley has the biggest, Amberley Beach has the biggest turnover, and to not have a manned site there sort of baffles me a wee bit when little old Colvin's got someone who keeps an eye on that.
Just again, sorry, Ross, to keep interrupting, but the other problem down at Amberley Beach is where it happened is all of a sudden you've got people camping down by the bloody golf club, camping in the paddock over the fence. You know, it's kind of like
The golf club actually provides an area for freedom campers.
Oh, but I've seen them down along the beach of the trees, you know, basically just down the road.
Mm.
But it's, to me, it looks like there's a bit of work needs to be done there.
Yeah. Thank you for that discussion, and like any new system that comes in, there'll be teething problems with it, and I think those are being worked through, and looks like there's solutions for a lot of these campgrounds. So I'd like to thank you for this report, and we'll move on to would somebody like to move that this information gets to the owner? All those in favour say aye.
Right?
Again? Okay. So, page 23. And then it'll be, no, you can come and get ready for the hot seat. And Alex, we might have a couple of that. So, we won't stay.
If we just quickly look at the highlights, PCA audit. We ended up with 4 outstanding channel non-compliances and 0 significant ones, resulting in being low risk. So that moves us back to a 2-yearly audit schedule, which is something we've been struggling with for a number of years. So that was a really good result. Number 1, we're now forecasting commissioning completion by the end of February. Had some stringent timeframes there. The fire at Queen Mary, obviously it left a whole lot of contaminated waste there, and there has been a cleanup cost for that. Dock Creek, we've cleaned a large constraint out there. It's been cleaned out. With the drain under Markham Street cleaned and reshaping. Taumata Arawai is consulted on changes to standards for supplies of less than 500 people. We submitted on that saying that they didn't go far enough with the less than 500 people. They need to be a bit more wider than that. So I'm sure they'll take notice of our submission and instigate some changes. And not much else to report overall there, I don't think. No safety events, significant safety events. So
Thank you.
there.
Just regarding the water regulator and the less than 500 people.
Yep.
Is there any information coming out on the water schemes that are supplying less than 25? So my understanding is anything less than 25 really flies under their radar. But is there some regulation that captures them, or?
Probably better to catch up
Cool.
with Alex
Okay.
on that one.
Okay.
But they're certainly backed away from, the farmhouse that supplies
Which is
another
great.
farmhouse, etc., etc. So they're backed away from all of that largely.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh, Vince.
And the vandalism and damage, 71,000 in October, that sounds a bit of damage.
Yep.
Is that on one thing or a fire?
No, it's
A fire.
that might include the $70,000 clean up for the fire, which
Yeah.
was suspected arson.
We get insurance to help.
No, we're not sure on that side.
Just one other thing to comment, I quite like having this cost savings initiatives up here just to show that our staff to keep an eye on where they can save, and that's for this year to date.
Yeah, 170K.
Yeah, I think that's worth noting.
Yeah, good comment, thank you. Okay, thank you, Hamish. So we'll move on to customer service. And welcome, Naomi.
Thank you very much. So it's a fairly brief report today. October, the main sort of highlights in here for us in October in the libraries was the school holidays and the school holiday programs. And also in the putting in some CCTV, but we'll come to that. So our compliments and complaints received. So we received 3 compliments. And I've highlighted the middle one, which was a customer support one. So we actually had somebody who was seeking some rates information and needed to see the rates officer. Before they saw them, they actually were involved with the customer services person who, after they saw them and saw the rates person, actually made the big comments about how great they were at the front and able to answer most of their questions. They always get the service. And I think I just really wanted to highlight that, not just because it's my area, but also because one of the goals that we actually have here is to have the front of house team answer 80% of queries as they arrive at the counter. And that takes a lot of training, that takes a lot of information for them to actually absorb all that to be able to answer those. But it means you're not offering people all the time. And that's not just at the counter, that's also on the phone as well. So it's that trying to get that one stop, you get the answer you need right at the beginning. And it's only if there's actually a technical question or something that they can't, often it's even looking it up on the website. They're able to look that up themselves rather than putting it through. And it also means our technical people can get onto the work that they need to be doing rather than being interrupted by can you tell me what day the rubbish is being collected this week? That doesn't have to go to Sally, that can be answered by our team. Sort of thing. So it's just nice to receive that. The complaint is, I left it in as a complaint purely because it was an interesting one to highlight for you. But I don't actually think it was fully a complaint for us because this was regarding the Huranui Garden Tour. Now there's a place in Willisai Place that is on the regular tour route. And we had a complaint beforehand, and I'm using the word complaint, a pre-complaint, that in years gone by, the road in that area gets blocked with cars and they park over driveways and they cause congestion, and they wanted us to do something about it. Now, it's not an event that requires a traffic management plan, so it really doesn't fall to us to actually solve it all. Now, in saying that, it came in, we look at go, what can we do to help? Bruce, our compliance guy, he actually sent a note to the house and said, we can loan you some cones if you want to on the day go out and actually pop some cones around driveways so that it just lets people know where to park. They declined. So it kind of was like, there's not a lot else we can do. So I know our roading team are looking at whether or not they can put some yellow lines around some particular areas. But other than that, not a lot we can do. So I left it in for that reason, just as a, hey, this is the kind of things that we deal with, not just the day-to-day. Down we go down to our borrowing stats for the library, and 10,558 books got borrowed in October throughout the district. So it was slightly up on the previous month and also slightly up on last year. So this is one of those really weird things again where we should be going backwards according to international trends, and we're not, we're going higher. So we'll see what goes with that. And our electronics are a good 20 to 30% of our borrowing numbers now. So that's increasing too, but not at the cost of the other. They're just increasing with a different group. If we slip over to the snaps and solves, pretty much our usual sort of picture being told there, roads and leaks, and mostly in Hanmer Springs. Although Amberley usually is as high as Hanmer, it's usually the two of them, and this time around we actually had, or they still were the highest, but we had Colborne and Cheviot popping in on that as well. As I said in the topical information, we had CCTV installed. As you know, we've got it out here, some internal. We've now had it into Cheviot and Hanmer too. So Hanmer's always had a camera in the foyer area. Now they've actually got them in the library as well as at the doors. And Cheviot, this is their first CCTV. These are sole charge libraries. So these are where there's just one person working there. And there has been incidents where they have felt unsafe. And as much as a camera is not going to protect you from somebody with aggression, what we do know is that it can actually put people off from their aggression. So they might not actually, knowing they're on CCTV, act in a particular way. So the staff on those particular sites are actually very, very happy, and they have all said that they actually feel a high sense of security, and it may be perception, but that's great. And yeah.
No, just a question regarding Snaps in Soul.
Yes.
You got one now and again, and I have to, it must have changed sort of lately, because it's actually really quite user friendly, which is good for me. So,
Yeah.
yeah, if I can figure it out, it means most people should be able to. Yeah.
Yeah, they're constantly making upgrades to the platform. It's Australian based, but they are constantly making upgrades to it. And I think there tends to actually be more of a move away from it in New Zealand, with Anteno becoming on the rise, and Anteno's giving us the options to be able to push messages out as well as actually just receive them in. And I think they're trying to really keep the business by making things as easy as possible, as popular as possible, so that people stick with Snaps in Soul. It's at no extra cost for us. So.
Thank you. Hamish?
So we will be moving to Anteno
Okay.
as part of our Datascape upgrade with the ERP system. So that will happen.
So it'll be called Anteno. So if people have an issue, that's what they.
Yep. But we'll do a whole lot of comms around that to get people on board while we do the Snaps in Soul.
So if you want to find out how user friendly it is, just
Test dummy.
send them to me first. Thank you. Sorry, Naomi.
No, that's all good. No, it is. Our use of Snaps in Soul is one of the highest, and we get good results with that. So we're hoping that will just translate over to Anteno when we switch to that as well. But there are some advantages, and we'll talk about Anteno in the future, but it's the pushing out. So it's things like when we have a sudden water outage or something, we can actually push it out via that app, which means people receive a message on that app, which quite useful. Okay. And just on our last page here, we just have some of our pretty pictures of what's been happening in the libraries. So one of our junk bots, which is one of Serena, our waste educator, comes in most holidays and does different activities in the library. And junk bots has been done before, but it is one of the most popular ones of that the kids just seem to love doing. And we also had the Writers' Tea Party, which is the other photos. So the Writers' Tea Party is organised by the Friends of the Libraries, and it's an annual event. It's been going on since the inception of time, and they invite along some local or some authors to come and talk about their books, and the books are in the library, and it's just growing from strength to strength, and people just love it. It's just a really popular one. And the only other thing that's just on there is just a note about the youth hangout. So Amberley Library is now running once a week a youth hangout. So, and when I say the library's running it, the library's providing the space for it. It's actually one of our, I think, coming through from the community team, and there's actually a youth worker running this after school drop-in for the kids to come over and hang out and play. Great initiative, particularly in Amberley, which we know is there's not a huge amount of stuff for the kids afterwards, and whereas in a lot of other places they get on the buses and they get taken home, in Amberley they're still here. So we can host them at the pool, which is great, but often you'll find them up and down the street with the boys waving at the trucks and doing their truck honking, photoing thing that they do. But now we've actually got the opportunity to actually pop them into the library too, in a nice safe space. And that's my report.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
And pass our thanks on to the team behind you as well.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And we will stop for morning tea. And Alex will be ready to come back in 15 minutes. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. Alex.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
As
Your
usual,
hands.
I'll speak to the Three Waters operations part of the dashboard. If I can direct everyone to page 30. So page 30 largely covers our planned work and our routine maintenance program. There's nothing much to report on. We're largely on track in terms of the routine maintenance program. There's just a couple of wee changes or amendments. Number one, we had planned to do some aquatic weed removal at the primary pond at Hamlin Springs. So last month the pond was drained, and unfortunately the equipment that we had planned to use to remove that weed had performed worse than expected. So with the weed, it locked up a lot quicker than I guess the contractor had suggested it would. And actually, when the pond was drained, the quantity of the aquatic weed in the pond wasn't as large as anticipated. So when it's up and floating, it looks like there's a lot more of it than once it was drained. So we've got another plan of how to get it to get it out, and we will look at trying to implement that plan later on in the year beyond the heating water demand period. So we have been working in the background to develop a better, I guess, water outage and information map on our website. So stage one of that map has been developed and it's now live on our website. So it's under the services water section, and that displays all of our water notices, planned, unplanned, and current outages. Quite easy to navigate, and it gives us a functionality to essentially embed links which direct people to the outages that we can send out via email. And this future development of that map will have it placed in a better section of our website, and will give us a lot more flexibility and make it easier for us to update customers even on the smaller outages going forward. In terms of water safety plans, we had developed a plan to deliver initially the Culverton and the Waipara water safety plans. We have subsequently received a notification from Taumata ROI that they are reviewing our Cheviot water safety plan. So our focus has shifted slightly. So rather than developing the water safety plans, we are now looking at updating the Cheviot one first, and that work's currently underway.
Just through you, Mr. Chair, can I ask, do they just take random samples or plans, or is there a particular reason they looked at the Cheviot one?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure. It was our understanding that Taumata ROI were not going to review water safety plans. That was their initial communication a few years ago, but here we are. So we're certainly not sure.
Thank you.
Going through the dashboards, there's not really a lot to report. As you can see, our water repairs connections, our financial data is almost mimicking similar patterns from previous years, so there's nothing unusual happening. Moving on to page 34, as mentioned last month, the council prepared a submission towards the review of the drinking water quality assurance rules, and the main, I guess, the main basis for our submission is that we feel that the statement changes did not go far enough to make the reporting less onerous going forward. We've been in a heavy recruitment drive to fulfil the positions that were planned as part of the long-term plan, and 8 candidates were interviewed for the 4 advertised positions, and we have successfully recruited for the electrical position as well as the team leader 3 Waters position, which is great, and currently in talks for the CCTV and the stormwater roles. Moving on to cost saving initiatives. So last month, our staff received training from the manufacturers for maintenance and reactor repairs of our UV systems. These are slightly different to the ones that we've employed at some of our plants that were upgraded last year. And that resulted in approximately a $12,000 saving across the year. If we look at the routine component, so that means that we don't have to bring contractors in to service these systems, which I believe what most other councils do. So our staff do that work. But what I guess is not captured quite yet is the reactive component. So because we gain a lot more experience and know more information about these systems, if there's any reactive breakdowns that happen, we're not reliant on contractors largely to do that. There were 11 customers who reported complete loss of supply of the property. One of those was on demand, and there's a typo in here. So there were 1 on demand and 10 restricted. Majority of the restricted outages were as a result of blocked maricks, and what we've been finding lately as part of our routine maintenance program is we go out and service our point of supply, point of supply connections. The work has been focused largely in areas where we supply less than a unit of water, so mainly in where we supply half a unit. And what we're finding is that as those maricks are reduced to actually supply that half a unit of water, we're finding that they are getting blocked up very, very quickly. And a lot of those losses of supply were as a result of those half a units. Our average demand across the network remained quite stable at about 14,000 cubic metres per day. 70 new connections were processed, and 148 connections were inspected and adjusted, and that is that point of supply program. The Kowai water treatment plant was successfully commissioned, and that's fully online and supplying Amberley rural and Amberley urban areas.
Just through the chair, so does that remove the once upon a time we were mixing and all that, to do that, is that sort of superseded all that now? Where we had, hardness or browns, or we were sort of doing a mixing of some of the rules.
Through Mr. Chair, so the way we operate the plant currently, up until the commissioning of the Kowai water treatment plant, the water was being brought into Amberley from the Leafield bore. It was mixed with the Kowai older bore, or the original bore, and I guess the southern end of Amberley Township zone is supplied by Kowai. But what we've always tried to do is, because the water from our racecourse supply is slightly more aesthetically pleasing, so we've been trying to run the racecourse plant to supply as much of the demand as possible within Amberley, and Kowai was used as a peaking plant. So what we're doing differently now is the Leafield supply is no longer being brought into Kowai, because there's now 3 bores that supply that are able to meet the demand within the Amberley Township. And as you may recall from the long-term plan, we do have a project plan which is to supply a softener into the Kowai plant, which will further improve the quality of the water to go into the Amberley Township.
And is that now hooked right through to up the hill as well, or the line down the road and all down through there, or is that where to go yet?
Yeah, sure. So there are 2 lines that supply the sea down reservoirs and feed into the Amberley reticulation. So one of those lines is called the State Highway 1 line, and last year that line received a capacity upgrade, so it's now quite a bit larger. The second line we have is what we call our Hursley Terrace line, and the plant is configured in such a way as The State Highway 1 line runs on pressure, so as the pressure drops within the township, the plant will automatically compensate and try to keep that pressure up. And our Hursley Terrace line is configured to run on reservoir level. So when the Seadown Reservoir drops to a certain percentage, the Hursley Terrace line will switch on and it will boost up the reservoir up into another set point, and then the Hursley Terrace line will drop off and only allow for the State Highway 1 line to run.
Thank you.
Moving on, we had quite a significant rain event throughout the district. Some of the unconfirmed rain intensities up to 25 millimetres an hour in various parts of the district. We experienced high turbidity levels in I guess all of the rivers where we extract the water from. One in particular that caused us some issues was at Cheviot. So the new bore is quite a bit more connected to the river than initially thought. So as a result, the turbidity in that bore went above 5 NTU, which prompted a response in order for us to drop that turbidity to below 5 NTU. So staff installed some 1 micron filters at the treatment plant, and unfortunately those 1 micron filters weren't quite enough to reduce the turbidity below 5 NTU. So we quickly recommissioned the old bore at the plant, and that was sufficient enough to reduce the turbidity level to just below 5 NTU, and we were able to, I guess, supply the demand as required.
Good, just to achieve. So the last sentence in there, where does that one sit now? Does it involve more work or what to stop this happening again? Because presumably a new bore was put there for a reason. Yeah, to oversee the old bore, and we end up having to go back to the old bore. So is it work to there or what happens there?
Yeah, through Mr. Chair. So the Cheviot water treatment plant had historically 3 bores. So there's one essentially that's bore used for on-demand, day-to-day running, and there were 2 older bores that were constructed some time ago. They were only used as emergency measures. So those bores have been superseded by installation of this new bore, and the new bore will continue to function. It's just less likely to be used in times of high turbidity. As part of our long-term planning process, we have put some money aside to ensure that we continue to develop new water sources right across the district. And our focus now has shifted slightly as we found out that this bore is slightly more connected to the river than initially thought. So we will now be looking for an alternative bore to be installed for that water plant, just to make sure that we have got an alternative supply for those high demand areas, which typically don't happen very often.
Does it mean shifting away from the river more?
Through Mr. Chair, not necessarily. It might mean that potentially tapping into a different aquifer. It will largely depend on exploration bores and testing, just to see.
It's one aquifer from all the testing over the 20 years I've been around. The only option really was to move right over to the Waiea West Road site, sort of get further away from the river. So, we haven't really had high flows of that Waiea River this year. You've had that one, but we haven't had it where it's gone for a month, 2 months, where actually those other bores have gone silty. So I don't know how you're going to cope in years like that, because it's that glaciated silt as well. So.
Yeah, through Mr. Chair, it is difficult to forecast or predict how connected a bore will be in production stage. So the only thing that we can do is drill test bores and actually wait for periods of time when there's heavy heavy turbidity in the river and do testing at that time. The other solution, of course, is if there are deep aquifers, and that means that potentially drilling a lot deeper. But as you can imagine, the deeper you go, the higher the cost.
I'd like, before you spend money on doing that, to go back and look at all the records, because we did a seismic survey of that whole area from the railway line right up to the intersection of Morris's, and it's all just one aquifer. It's just, there's nothing, there's marine layer, sort of kilometres below that. And, I don't want to see a whole lot of ratepayers' money spent on doing test bores all over the show. It's just like throwing a dart ball at a mucking donkey's tail. It's quite a hard one to solve, that one. What would be better to actually test some of the existing wells, like there's Redfield's got a well on the other side of the road further around, and see what those wells do in high flows, those irrigation wells, if they change, because it is a difficult site.
Yeah, thanks for that, Vince, because there is a lot of, as you say, historical data in that area of going back, and probably is a case of looking at some of that, and as Vince says, using some of the existing wells, irrigation wells there to make decisions on. Yeah, thank you.
Through Mr. Chair, we'll certainly take that away. I believe that when the initial bore was installed, there was quite a lot of testing done, and some of them done from around the area, but certainly going through the records again and seeing if there's anything around the place will definitely help. Moving on to drinking water compliance, so not much change from the previous month. The information is very much the same. Moving on to wastewater. So all of our routine maintenance activities have been completed and are on track. During the heavy rain event that occurred over Labour weekend, we had to install a temporary pump up at the Hamner Springs wastewater, the Hamner Springs wet well, and that was just to aid with the quantity of water that was coming down in through the sewer network. There were no overflows reported up in Hamner Springs. We did have a minor overflow in Waiau at our Cambridge pump station. And again, that was just caused by the quite heavy rain that obviously infiltrated some of the wastewater network.
Sorry, Alex, this is in Waiau.
Sorry, Waikaria.
Oh, okay.
At our Motnau pump station, our irrigation pump failed, and we managed the ponds during that period while the new pump was procured, just to make sure there were no overflows. And we notified ECAN that was the case. There's some work done in Thornton Close to improve the flow and reduce the blocking there as part of the reticulation repairs. And as usual, the team kept a close eye across the stormwater network to make sure that the network performed as expected. The Kauai River mouth was opened when the consent condition allowed, and some work was completed down at the Leithfield outfall culvert to make sure that the structure was ready before the heavy rain event. And there are some photos of that just on page 37. Just to add.
Sorry, Chair, if I could go back to 36, the standard road. Looks like we've got ECAN's small curveballs coming. Is that something, just from what I've seen, right from the start, we've had, every time we seem to be working with ECAN, that staff member's left now, or although they've changed something else, they've led us a myriad answer, I think, on standard road for a number of years. I just was wondering, Guy, I know that Mr. Seymour's probably got a fairly busy day, one day already, but his regulation, is there something, you know, like, we just seem to be struggling to get headway with ECAN on this one. Not yet. Is there any way to advance on the project?
Through Mr. Chair, what? Share this one, George.
So, I mean, we had discussions with ECAN about this, say, right at the highest level, but, the consent, although it sat there for about 3 years, they all of a sudden decided that they were catching up on the consents and they had to rush this one through, and they gave us some conditions and said, you got 5 days, I think, to review those conditions, and it was, I can't remember how many, 46 conditions or something. And it was like, well, we can't review it in 5 days, so they extended it to 10 days, but even 10 days. And we raised some views about the conditions. They said no by issuing the consent. So now we're in a position where we're objecting to the conditions. So we have a consent, which is good, but the conditions, some of them seem quite unworkable to us and incongruous. So they've gone the other way. So instead of sitting on everything forever, they just spanked it out. Didn't really care what it said. So, well, no, it's probably unfair to them. But they were in a hurry to get it out.
So we're sitting on, you know, block of land up there, and does it hold up everything? Because I presume until we have a plan of how the stormwater bit's going to happen, or the wetlands, it maybe affects what happens with the rest, or correct, or can we?
No, we
Basically at a stalemate.
we worked through the objection process on the conditions. It's a process to work through, and we'll see whether we can get a little bit more clarity in those conditions. And we'll go.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. Good question, because yes, the Emily Swamp was keen to see that moving, but yeah, it's a process.
Well, Alec, I'd like to congratulate you on your savings, your cost savings, because you've saved 161,000 roughly, working out the whole. The rest of the council's only saved 8. So you're a man. You'll have to go and give lessons for the rest.
We're well aware of the, I guess, the tough economic times, and I guess it has not really been a topic, but that's something that we've been trying to do, over several years.
Yeah, just congratulations.
Yeah.
It's good that you look at that.
Yeah.
And you've got a lot of data where you can look that you can work out things you don't actually have to do. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And the last, I guess, bit that I skipped over was some work was done in Dock Creek. We've completed capacity restoration work under 2 of our critical assets, one under Markham Street and one under Bank Street, which were highlighted as, I guess, a couple of choke points. And so all the silt has been removed from under those bridges.
Thank you, Alex.
And that's my report.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Charlie,
I will go and find it.
Vince, you keeping an eye on the time? Yeah.
Is Charlie still at the ship quarter?
he may well be.
Yours is coming.
Steve Engel.
Maybe we can start right through the chair and see whether Charlie is here or not.
Yeah. Where Fiona goes. Okay, Hamish, you take us through the roading report and we'll see where Charlie turns up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First page really looks at the planner and where we are at the moment. Obviously, we're getting towards the heavy maintenance season, and we're seeing those numbers start to ramp up. Also, we've put a lot of metal on the roads, and that has, you know, obviously having an impact in the district. Finances are there.
Blue Charlie's been called out on urgent water issue.
Yep. Can you just tell Brownie he's up next?
Yeah.
CSR is running pretty much as normal. And you can see the control activities there as well. So yeah, still maintaining our focus on drainage and this culvert clearance and sumps, and 11, almost 12 kilometres of high shoulder removal.
Hamish, if I can just interrupt you on LNP activities. And I don't know whether anyone else has noticed that in their area, but I've noticed that potholes have been fixed without me having to send in a snap send solve.
Okay.
Several times I've seen, they've pulled that pothole off on a certain part, because normally you'd see them grow and grow and grow, and then it's like, oh, okay, snap send solve and it'll be done. But so I'm sort of seeing a bit of proactive potholing being done, which is my understanding is what the contract is supposed to be. There's a certain amount they're supposed to do, and so it's good to see that what I'm seeing is happening.
Yep. Mr. Luxon might take credit for that. So obviously we're working on stabbies and dig outs and edge break repairs to pre-seal. And so about Kenamley Road, Maxwell's Road, and Marshman's Road. But the photo is actually one on Minor Beach Road. Steady on George's Road, just looking up that shoulder break there. Obviously, just, you know, a bit of rain has helped our meddling and grading program, and hopefully 32 million that we bring on the road network. Yeah, and we continue to focus on those drainage issues. So photos there of the Glendhu Road. Just looking at the middle applied, you can see the volume of 32 that we put on. Had a real focus on putting 32 on, and you know, the purpose of putting 32 on is to try and shore up the base of the road a bit more, rather than putting on 20 and losing it. So you know, it does lead to a few issues when we are putting a lot of 32 on, because it does take a while to work in, and you do need good conditions for it to work in. Couple of places it probably gets some punishment as well as we like, but it will as long as we get some rain. Damage and vandalism, not too much to report. Overweights and heavy vehicles.
Just on that overweight, well, that paragraph there, there's quite a bit of logging been happening up the Inland Road, common property up there, which has been, I think they're doing about 10 trucks a day for the last 2 months and ongoing. So because it's relatively dry, the road's holding together all right. I don't know if it get a wet spell back up, and I guess that's just something we factor into our part of our budget. That So there's no way of claiming anything back from anyone. No. It's, yeah, certainly when you do see these big trucks loaded up and, you think, gosh, how's that road going to handle that? Never had the proper work done when it was sealed. And so the maintenance of it is now totally our cost.
Yep.
Sorry, carry on.
Well, just
Oh, sorry.
on all these new culverts down the Glen Route. I went down there looking at, some of them they need like an elephant trunk on them, because that picture there's a good example of what you don't.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, I hope they have installed them, because otherwise we'll be just wash the road away. The water's dropping.
Yeah, creating a
It's
big
just
hole.
Big sluice. So it's just something that, you know, the extra, otherwise you might as well not touch it. Get rid of that. It just washes the road, undermines everything.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Vince, for your input. Thank you, Hamish.
Sorry, I'm just making note of that. So coming up in November, a lot of stabbies to be done. Still Metling on Lake Summer Road and Cathedral Road. There's some repairs required there. As noted, Charlie's on a technical audit at the moment, where NZTA go through and look at our work and say, why did you choose this, not that, etc., etc., etc. So that's underway at the moment. And also we're going to bring you a discussion document to council about treatment methodologies, risk, etc. for pre-seal repairs. You know, at the moment we take a relatively low risk approach with our pre-seal repairs, and we know where we don't and they blow out, then the public soon let us know that we're complete idiots and we should have done a huge dig out, etc., etc., etc. But there is I mean, the high risk methodology is to say we think we can get by without a huge dig out here, we'll stabilise it and seal over it. So we're going to bring a paper to council just discussing those things and the risk involved in those and the appetite for risk.
Yeah, just on that note, Hamish, because my understanding would be it would be very site specific. Sometimes, you know, what you find underneath and you know, talking to the local contractors up our way, if they're doing a dig out and what they dig down to underneath is not a good base, they say, hey, look, we need to go deeper, but no, these are the specs, and it's almost like you need a change or to be adaptive to suit the environment, because you know, we all hate to see a job done and then you're back a year later redoing it, and whereas if it could have just been a little deeper dug, and you might get, and that might be the end of that problem. So it's yeah, I hate to see good money chucked in a
some of these
temporary
contractors keep digging until they got to Spain and try and backfill it with mineral in. So it's a balanced job.
Yeah, correct.
And if we have a contractor that says this isn't looking good and there's a discussion, and then there is some leeway.
Yeah.
But they're not making those decisions themselves.
No, but it needs to be adaptive, so that some, you know, a phone call and a video call or whatever can say, hey, look, you know, we need to just go a bit deeper here, or we'll be back here in a year's time. So
what
so
we're
that
talking
makes
about here
sense.
isn't necessarily about the extent of the dig out. This is about not doing dig outs in some cases, just doing surface stabilisation.
Okay.
And having a crack, and obviously you increase the risk of it blowing out.
Yeah.
And that's when you get everybody telling you that they knew that you should have done.
So yeah, so through the chair, surely internally board. If a contractor says, we think, internally, you must have some capability that can actually make the technical decision. Or do you have, I know you've got an external engineer.
No, we have an internal engineer as well, writing engineer. So yes, they're competent, but
So to me, it's them. The contractor can say, well, I think you need to do this.
so what we do is we go over the road with the contractor saying that's a stebby, that's a dig out, whatever. But we take a relatively low risk approach on this, and should we take more risk, we just do stebbies and less dig outs because you get more done.
And I think the thing we hear, contractor people doing is to have a timely response. You know, so you're not holding, because that's what will cost you money if I've got to wait and stop the whole progress. But I'm just saying, internally have the people, they've got to make the decision, not the contractor. Because as you say, yeah, dig to Spain. But so as long as you've got the expertise.
Well, the contractor has expertise as well. They're doing the stuff all the time on our roading network. So we utilise their knowledge as well. They employ roading engineers as well. So what we do before we do a length of road is we have a look at it, we have a drive over it, we have a discussion about what might be a dig out, what might be a stabby, whatever. Our contractor is always going to say dig out because that's in their interest.
Well,
whereas if we
I don't
go,
know, if you've got faith in your contractors and your people that you're dealing with, I believe what they tell me because they're adding value to my business. And if they start ripping me off, well, then it becomes a whole different. So it's that relationship, which you've got a good relationship. So it's having the trust both ways.
so why don't you wait until we get the paper and we'll have a discussion then about whether we're prepared to take some more risk on this or not. Because like any of these things, these guys work to engineering standard, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there's interpretation and there's all sorts of things. And I mean, either you've got an appetite for some more risk or you don't. You told us at one stage that you did, so let's just tease that out a little bit and see what that looks like.
So in that paper, my appetite, I want you to do is relationship and trust, right? Those two factors are pretty important. It's the relationship and the trust. The relationship is real high in my. So it's not appetite to risk. It's my appetite to risk is reduced if you've got a relationship.
So the form of contract that we have requires us to provide direction to the contractor because we moved away from the old contract where the contractor said this is what you need to do. And we say, yes, we can fund it, no, we can't. To a form of contract that requires us to provide more instruction and have more input with the contractor. We need to have that input, but the contractor would say, well, the easy answer here is we could do a dig out and that'll definitely solve it. Or potentially we could do a stabby and we might get away with it. What do you think? Because you're the decision maker. That's what they say to us. And that's the form of contract that we have. Previously, they would tell us what they, under the old form of contract, what they intended to do, and we would confirm that we were going to fund that or not. So this is a much more interactive process, and it means that some of the risk, because we're the decision maker, sits with us. Now it'd be real easy for us to say dig out, dig out, dig out, and not get any failures. But is that the best use of the limited financial resource that we have? Or are we prepared to take on a little bit of risk? And you know we get egg on our faces when they do blow out after we've done a stabby, but people never know the ones that we did a stabby and are successful. So, you know, that's the crux of it. And you know, yes, we have a good relationship with their contractor. Yes, but we gain a great deal of trust in their contractor. No problem there. But this is the form of contract that we engage them on that requires us to have a greater input, because that was what the council wanted. That was the direction of the council. Have greater directional input with the contractor. And when you do that, you carry some risk that you didn't carry previously. And we just want to test the parameters of that risk a little bit by, by looking at these things.
No, fair comment, I think.
And we've done that today with the Ford issue. We've
Yeah.
tested the appetite, risk, service, level of service, etc. We tested that a little bit.
Yeah.
So there will be a paper coming to the council on that.
Thank you, Hamish. Just before you finish, just a wee comment on the great job of taking out some trees on River Road. Willows, which made visibility fantastic along that section of road, and my only comment would be, always a wee but, 2 sprays and they're gone.
Always ignore everything before the but.
Okay, leave out the but 2 sprays, 1 follow-up. I know they probably painted the stumps, but we can eliminate the problem forever cheaply with 2 sprays, and this is all about saving money. I'm not harping on about
So
for no reason.
so the chair, maybe the chair could tell the farmer that's next door to spray it, and then they know it gets done on time, and so that'd be an even easier option, Ross.
I know, but we know some are conscientious and some aren't.
We're worth a try.
So I see he's writing it in his book, so that's great. But because, we spend a lot of money on taking them out, and it just a little bit more and you eliminate it forever. So thank you, Robbie. You got your pen up?
Yeah, just three quick ones. We talked about potholes earlier on. I was interested while I was away, front page of the paper in Scotland, the council, one of the councillors brought up complaining about the $4 million that they pay out for claims from potholes. So I don't know what it is here. I think we talked about it once before, whether or not someone can make a claim or not, but over there they have to have the evidence, they take a photo and this sort of thing. But $4 million to pay out in claims as opposed to having $4 million to put into your road. So I thought that was pretty significant. So I had to go down that route. I was interested in the conversation around, I watched the recording of one of the meetings around the 32, and it was interesting. He's working across the road today. I was seeing his grader. Several months ago, Bluey Lewis, who to me be one of like Billy Lott's old man, the more grandfathers of the trade and roading and earthworks in our area. And he said some time ago he could not understand why we'd gone away from using 40 on the roads to get that base. And he said about the 20 just breaking down too much and just not working. So I'm really interested to see how the 32, how that works out. And the other thing was around the digger that goes around, does all these culverts and everything else. Where does that one sit now? Because we'd sort of decided that that was a proven success, that was doing a good job. Is that just sort of sit with the main contract now, or is it something that's off to one side as a separate thing under council? Or how does that one work? Is he like a freelance digger, or is he tucked under the contract? Or
It was previously separated out. I'm not sure what now it's permanent, whether it's the contract didn't have a rate for a wheelie digger in it, and so it allowed us to go to the market. I'm assuming that we're still with the market rather than under the contract. But we need to answer that.
Thank you, Robbie, for those questions. So anything more to add, Hamish?
No, that's it.
That is your report. Thank you for that, and pass on our thanks to Charlie for the good work he's doing as well. And we're on page 42, and Andrew, welcome. Thank you. Take us through your report.
Yeah, thank you. So regulatory starting on page 42, a relatively routine month in terms of service requests for us. I noted the couple of unusual dumping incidents that we had, where we had a whole truckload of tyres. I think there was 22 tyres or something like that out of a river, and I can't remember which one now that I'm sitting here. And the animal carcasses, we seem to go through that sort of seasonally, and that's a little bit difficult because they can't really go and be packed into a compactor bin at the transfer station because they're not really allowed to go up to Cape Valley, so we have to find alternatives for those.
How do you deal with that?
Where we can, we'll bury them on site.
Okay.
But we just have to be a wee bit careful with how close that might be to the water, so we have to try and meet the middle there. In the past, we had considered whether we could have an offal pit around somewhere with our pound, but there's complications with that as well in terms of when they're permitted and when they're not. And obviously, well, we haven't made inquiries for a long time, but I remember this particularly with pigs a while ago, is that farmers aren't willing for random pigs to go into their offal pit because that's a risk coming onto their farm. So we haven't really gone looking for friendly offal pits either.
So what are these animals, cattle, pigs?
There was a mixture. I think there was some deer in there, but usually it's pigs and occasionally it's poached. It's sheep and cattle that have been poached. We haven't seen so many of them recently, but yeah, when we have found those in the past, often there's been an ear tag, and we've been able to try and. I do remember getting in touch with a station one time or a farm around Haringey Bluff Road just to let them know that we'd found some of theirs. So if we can do that, we'll do that. No reported dog bites in October, so that's good. And it's only happened one other month in the last 12 months. We did have, there's two slightly different dog welfare calls. We had one a car accident where there was a dog in a car and the dog was okay, but the owner was airlifted to hospital, so the emergency services requested that we go and pick up the dog from them. And the other one where someone's family member took their car without their permission and ended up getting in a police chase. And the car was from Christchurch and they ended up getting pulled over just before the Hamner turn off, and the police called us and said, "We've got this car and we've got this dog, can you come and take the dog?" And they actually waited there with the dog until we could get there. Yeah, so those ones were a bit different. Alcohol licensing, so we've got two hearings coming up. One is finishing off the previous hearing that we had last month, and is the applicant's lawyer and the directors of the applicant are all Auckland based, and the witness that needs to give evidence is Nelson based. So we're going to do the whole thing remotely, and that'll be our licensing committee's first remote hearing. So fingers crossed that goes smoothly. And the other one is early December for the bottle store application for Culverden. Just a note on trade waste applications. So we're sort of making slow progress with this, but we've got two. Actually, we've got more since I wrote this report, but we've got two on the books at the moment. One's for an existing truck wash and one's for a brand new laundromat. So that's the approval for them to discharge their wastewater into council's wastewater network. Freedom campaign is everything's going smoothly enough, numbers are picking up. I just noted there that during the heavy rain at Labour weekend, we got a call with some concern that the Hamner River can rise and sort of lap into the Hamner River Reserve there, and there was some concern that the people camping there might not be aware of it, so the contractor went out to alert them to it. We're thinking about whether that needs a sign or not, but if you've been to the Hamner River Reserve, there's a huge number of signs in it already, and I wonder if, I'd rather not. Probably one of those things that happens infrequently enough that we can just send a contractor out to knock on some doors when it happens. In the topical information, that heading illegal rubbish dumping is wrong. So I just wanted to highlight that we're in that sort of recreational water quality season, and how that works is that the water is sampled by Environment Canterbury, and they do all the testing and results, and then between them and Te Whātua Ora, I think, let us know if any of our field signage needs to change. So there's a few options that we might be instructed to put up over the summer season, and one is where there's like fecal contamination detected, and then there's the algal bloom signage. They've produced all the signage, and we just have it in laminated copies for the temporary one. We've got some old signage that we'll probably replace with the modern stuff. This is like a national campaign to lower the water information, really. So we quite like to have consistent signage with other places, so people kind of know, oh yeah, wherever they are, they can go to this Lawa, and if it's a sampled site, they can get water quality information on it. So for us, there's 6 freshwater sites that are sampled, that are monitored. That's the Waipara River swimming hole, the Hurunui River at Balmoral, Hurunui River at State Highway 1. I'm not sure on these Waiau ones, there's a South Bank tributary for the Waiau above the Waiau Bridge, and then there's the Waiau River at the township bridge are both sampled. And a new one at the Hamner River downstream of the Hamner River Reserve. And there's also 2 marine sites, one's Gore Bay and one's at Motunui, but it's where the access to the beach is compromised, so it's not currently being sampled. I will just keep you updated on how these results go through the summer, because this is the same program of work that you might have seen in the news for Christchurch, where they were directed to put up not safe to swim sign in some of the bays in Littleton Harbour, the very popular swimming places, and that was quite controversial. And the last I saw from the news, the Christchurch City Council decided to not put up the signs. So I don't think ours are quite as controversial, although the Waipara swimming hole has been, had tested quite poorly over the last year, and there was no swimming sign put up. But we'll just keep an eye on it and see what happens. That's all I've got for regulatory, so.
Thank you.
Just Chair Ross. Look, I've got a link, I'm not sure if it comes under you or not, maybe something written to someone else, and I can talk to them about later on. But the Leithfield Beach, I've got their meeting coming up, and we're wondering, could I give them an update on the Leithfield Beach, the green waste pile? Is that something that there's obviously an issue, but I'm not fully over it, but I said I'd get an update if I could.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I can give you. We're aware that there is a green waste pile at the south of Leithfield Beach. It's on land that's conservation land on that foreshore area. We haven't done anything formally about it since in 2021. We did like a letter drop to try and discourage the use of it, and we've just started to think about what we could do about it. But yeah, apparently there's a meeting between DOC and ECAN and the residents, or is it just between DOC and ECAN? We haven't been invited, but apparently there's a meeting. It is on DOC land. DOC had in the past expressed some interest in doing something about it. And I know ECAN they do that ranger patrol for us on the foreshore, and they have on occasion spoken to people at the pile. They've taken a view that it's a biosecurity risk, that it's there's the potential for general waste dumping to start occurring at the pile. But also that it seems from their interaction with the community that it seems to be just an accepted practice to dump the thing there. So I don't know what the answer to it is. I suspect it's probably a multi-pronged. We need people to sort of change their view on doing that. We need probably people to have an alternative option. I don't know the whole situation, but what I can sort of see from afar is that there's probably conflict between some locals that use it responsibly or whatever, if you like, and some that abuse it, and it's as opposed to there is a we've got our depot not too far away, but that one's free and that one's not. So I like to talk and see what's exactly the.
Yeah, but I guess, from our perspective, it's not our green waste pile, and it's not our land, so not my circus, not my monkeys.
So it's DOC land.
Well, it is conservation land. I don't know how active DOC is in that area with that land, so I don't really know how they work and what they're, just because it's conservation land, I don't know how much active management they take.
And we do have green waste facilities, as you pointed out, not that far away, so
we do have green waste facilities, but we are aware that some of the criticism about green waste facilities are that our acceptance criteria is too limited, and we know why our acceptance criteria is limited at the moment, and our hours in terms of operating hours are too limited. So I can see that being feedback that will come out of any process that happens. And funnily enough, I was going to talk about that a little bit in the waste report as well. Well, on that note, I visited that pile recently, and it's not, I wouldn't say the state of it's too bad. I don't think, but my view of it, there wasn't much, if any, sort of general rubbish in it. There might have been a couple of flower pots and the little things that go with your plants, but it certainly, it wasn't offensive.
We burning it, or they just leaving it right
No,
now?
it's just up there, and it's been a long standing practice from what I can gather.
Okay.
So in waste, there's a few things happening in the planner there. Probably the biggest ones on our mind at the moment are working through the contract renewal and the how we're going to do things. So thanks for those of you at the workshop the other week, and there's a follow-up report to council meeting to sort of formalise a decision from council about how we proceed for the next little bit. Councillor Hislop's given me some intel to go and have a conversation with Carterton about how they do stuff. I haven't had a conversation yet, but I'll give you an update once I have. Just in waste, in the volume there, you'll see a big jump in volume because we've included 170 odd tonnes of special waste that came out of the Queen Mary Hospital. The building that burnt down last month. Even without that special waste, the waste volume is 186 tonnes above where it was at the same point last year, which is 2 fully loaded 737s or 18,000 average size watermelons. But the recycling tonnage is also 31 tonnes more than it was at the same point last year, which is a large humpback whale. I just, at the risk of going on a little bit of a tangent, for many years we've had the same targeted waste volume and the performance measures, but through the activity management plans last year, we took a fresh look at that because I think the reality of what if we have something like 8% population growth between the last two censuses is that you can't keep expecting to get the same target. And the approach that we took was to look at our per capita waste, which is 264 kilos of landfill waste per person, as per the last waste assessment, which is actually quite low by national standards, so that's good. And sort of, what's the word? The per capita waste times the expected population and sets our sort of expected targets based on that.
Yeah.
So with those targets in mind, which are now our targets, we're tracking okay. And the challenge that we set ourselves is to continue to have the proportion of the whole waste stream that is recycled and is recycling grow by a certain amount each year. So we're aiming for either 30 or 31% of the whole waste stream to be recycling this year, and next year is 32. So that is, I think I've talked about it a few times, but that really is the challenge I think in the waste space is to divert what can be diverted in a cost-effective way and start increasing that because the consumption is obviously still much the same as it always has been.
So your per capita, is that over the whole district or just the urban?
Yeah, it's over the whole district. So it's an accepted measure for waste assessments, but we accept that there's foibles to that because there's, and it's measuring waste to landfill. So it's measuring what we waste.
Screw the scrum in our favour a little bit because a lot of farmers won't get rid of a waste through your system.
Yeah.
A lot like us will.
Yeah.
But the push on doing the recycling, if you make that easy enough, they'll do the recycling. So, yeah. So if we're per head better, it could be screwed because what percentage of a 9,000 ratepayers are rural versus urban?
Yeah, but I mean, that probably is one of the reasons why our per capita number is quite low. And it could get very well could be to our advantage. Hopefully the stuff that's not coming through our system is still going somewhere in a responsible way. That's the only concern. And a lot of it is. Some of it isn't. Oh, yeah, so over the Labour weekend, long weekend, we were closed Monday. The transfer station was closed Monday where it's usually open, and on the following day at the transfer station, there's a fairly significant amount of stuff left neatly stacked outside the gate. Photos there on page 49. Which is a pain because it has to be cleared up, but the more painful part was that there was a whole lot of rubbish and non-recyclable stuff poked through all those recycling bins there, which meant the whole lot went to landfill. We have got a camera at the transfer station gate there, and when we can identify someone dropping off rubbish that they shouldn't be dropping off outside of ours, we will send them an invoice for the costs of cleaning it up. I think on that occasion we couldn't identify anyone, but there's been a couple of other occasions since where we have sent an invoice, and they're not big. I think the last one was sort of $40 or something like that for the time that the contractor to go and scoop it all up and pick it up, and then someone here had to generate an invoice and send it.
Sorry, just thinking, Ross, through the chair, as a way, a low hanging fruit of improving that recycling component, your comms could do hit the rural people about bringing their recycling to town when they go to town. Slightly more staff, right? And take it to the Amberley transfer station back and tip it out, or take it into town, or take it to Colvin and Waiau, but really pushing. You're more likely to get the recycling from all of rural and waste. That could help percentage, low hanging fruit, if that's important.
Great. Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I think it's a good suggestion, and we like to do comms on waste. So if you've got good ideas that you think will land well, yeah, let's have them. I like that.
Because it's pretty light and pretty,
and it doesn't smell normally, which is better. Yeah, I like that. We will do some.
well, just as a side, one of my six, I don't need to record it, one of my 7 houses, the husband and wife got a lecture on recycling because it was ending up in my rubbish bin, which cost me $600 a month, and I squealed. So recycling was going into there, and it was showing to them that they either recycle and take it to town, or otherwise they take their rubbish to town as well. So we're now recycling properly.
Small steps. One of the things that the out of hours sort of stuff being left outside the transfer station, and in my view, the green waste pile, and possibly, in the likelihood that we're not progressing to wheelie bins in the next contract cycle, is in our view, brought the need to think about those transfer station opening hours back to our attention. So at the moment, they're limited by resource consent. We're going to take a look at what's involved to sort of get to open up at least the consented hours. We still have the issues of more hours is more operational costs, so we still have to go and think carefully about that. But we at the moment that transfer station is operating on the hours that it had in 2014 when it moved to that site, which were the hours that it operated on before that when it was in the middle of Amberley. And we know weekends and Sunday afternoons are great times to take stuff to the dump, and we're not open. So it's possible that needs to be addressed, but we'll look at it and hopefully, in terms of if there are extra costs and things, then that'll probably be a paper for thinking about through the annual plan sort of process. But it seems like a logical conclusion with some of the issues that we're having to have we look at it anyway.
Yes. If I can say that, I think it's not open today.
Tuesday, it's not open Tuesday.
Yeah, which because I thought, I'll come and go down, be open. Bring some recycled steel, but not open. So, and that I thought, that's odd. I thought size of Amberley you'd be open 5 days a week, but that was just my assumption that Amberley's big enough to cope with that. But
Mr. Chair, I think our consent does allow us to open on Tuesday. It's just been a long-standing choice not to. perhaps we could. One of the advantages to the Tuesday closure is there's an enormous amount of operational stuff that he's done at the site during that day, which is just easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think in general, we want to take a look at those hours and see what's right.
Yeah.
One of the questions we had in the past is if we opened a lot more hours, would we actually expect to get more waste, or would we just get the same amount of waste spread across more days? And then are we willing to wear that cost or not?
Yeah, as you say, certainly the weekend when a lot of people do their gardening and have a tidy up around home could be something to look at and keep the Tuesday shut, but open on.
So it is open on Saturday morning.
Saturday morning, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Just noted there, we've had some stuff turn up in the Hendon Springs transfer station that's been dropped off by someone helping themselves to access while we're closed. We think we know who that is, so we just wanting to have a conversation with them, find out what the story is there. It's a bit of a risk to us to have people in those sites when they're not supposed to be in there.
So they must have access to the gate?
No, I think they probably climb over a fence or through under. It's reasonably well fenced, that site. It's a good deer fence right around it and a strong gate. The only other thing, a couple of other things actually, is the windscreen glass. We've got a new avenue for windscreen glass and building glass at the moment. That was, in the past, that was allowed to go to Cleanfill. Cleanfill is subject to a levy now, or has been for a while, a couple of years. And the levy is lower if it's just sort of pure Cleanfill and not glass and things like that. So we've found an avenue for glass where it's genuinely recycled. We've got our arrangements with backloading trucks returning from Cape Valley, which means we can get it there for cheap. That outfit are also interested in our other glass, and we're sort of doing a trial there about the other glass as well, which is that goes and turns into new glass. Whereas our current arrangements, it turns into road. And you might have seen, we spend a bit of time, we have Nicole, our waste support officer, spends a bit of time talking with businesses and whether there's any ways they can improve their waste processes or any feedback they can bring to us, or any additional things we can do to help. And the Hamner Pools are obviously pretty proactive in that environmental space where they can be as well. So she's had some good conversations with them and been involved in the background with things like the switch from pizza boxes to serving pizzas on plates when they're taken, which is a relatively easy one for them. They're talking about 600 pizza boxes a week or something like that, and some of that they'll be pumping out of there, and that'll be massively reduced by doing plates. So that's cool. And there's an Agricovery drum recycling program. I don't actually have the stats for what was collected, so I'll probably bring that back next month and let you know how that went. That's all I'll talk to today.
Thank you, Edwin. That's a great report. Thank you for the great work you do and the people behind the scenes as well. Thank you.
Thanks.
Just a quick.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it might be something that more ends up with a long CSR or something. More of the big bins, which is great. But a while ago, I had a query from Blue Dairy. They sell chicken boxes, which are that big. The hole in the bin's that big. So the kids were putting them in. I went and had a look this morning again, and I found one of the bins has got a hole about that size, which I think would be pretty good. The other one's basically putting bottles in. But I noticed that might be removable. It might be, you can adjust the size of the hole, so whether that gets taken out. But if we put in more bins around, you're not going to cater. If you put in one outside a Pizza Hut or something, you've probably got a big problem anyway. But if there's ones outside dairies and that, yeah, as long as they can get their stuff in, otherwise the kids won't.
I sort of have two comments. One, yes, you're right. Logically, that would be the right thing to do. But two, are we putting these bins out for, what responsibility does a business have for its waste? Is that what our street litter bins are? Are we happy putting our street litter bins out for businesses producing waste. So this is takeaway, so you logically expect someone to pick it up, take it away and be somewhere else and need to put it in a bin. But I mean, we have had some conversations with some businesses to the effect that they felt some sort of ownership of our council bins as if they were provided for their business purposes, but they're not really, are they? They're really provided because we have an obligation to provide enough to keep the streets and public areas free of litter. So I'm not going to dig my heels in and say we won't change it, and I think at the very least we've got some bins coming, so we can have a look and make sure we've got the right size gaps in the right places. But also, I just think who are those bins for?
Yeah.
Are these boxes still full of chicken and chips that they can't hold them up?
Probably, but I think one's got a hole like that, just a bit small. Yeah, I understand that you go too big and they'll be trying to put a mattress in it, but it's,
Can they not fold them?
just a wee thing, eh?
Can they not fold them?
Well, they already finished their chicken and chips before, and they're only 3 steps away
Phone
from
app to do it for you these days.
They're right outside the dairy, why don't they just go back to the dairy then?
Yeah.
Reuse them.
Well, maybe you need to put a sign on the table outside the Blue Dairy to take it back inside, you know.
Go
Okay,
back.
okay, moving on.
Yes,
Yeah, thank you,
Right,
Andy. Thank you for that nice conversation,
Thank
Robbie. Yeah, very good. Welcome to the chair, Kerry. Thank you, Kerry, and if you can take us through your report, thank you.
It's building on page 52. You'll see there that on the planner that we've got two members of the team getting close to the end of their qualifications. Finished their course with it now, so we're just waiting on the results, so it's quite good. And you also see that we're already starting to work through our INs of 25-26, so we added that to the planner this time. You also see the applications for building consents are still relatively good levels. It's meant to be quiet out there, but the applications are still coming in more than last year in October, in fact. Over on page 53, we've issued slightly more consents in October than we did last year. And it's taking an average of 13 days to process a consent at the moment, which is about exactly the same as last year, but overall generally lower. 100% of our consents are on time at the moment, so every one of them is below 20 days. And there's still 84% of our consents have RFIs, so that basically means that 84% consents coming in the door are not compliant with the building code. And there's an average of around about 12 RFIs per consent at the moment.
Kerry, if I just hold you there, Robbie's
Yeah,
got this.
that was the point I wanted to pick up on. I noticed that, basically since April was a hell of a bump. Is that due to more information being required? Some change in regulation that it's kind of like something's happened there for all of a sudden there's a big spike in personal information.
Through the chair, we've noticed the quality of plans in the last few months have been less than they have been. I'm not sure what the reason of that is, but yeah, that has caused, if the quality of the information that's coming in causes more RFIs. So lower the quality, the more RFIs. So I don't know what's going out there, whether it's people not employing the right professionals and trying to do it themselves or rushing or whatever. Yeah, but it's not a particularly good sign, a lump like that. But as you can see, it is coming down, which is to me telling me that they're using more professionals and that they have the right skills.
So hopefully it's not a weekend process of more information become on time with consents.
Yeah.
You slow the process down, you ask for more information, then they're on time. So it's not that.
No, it's the time frames are still 12 days average, and we hate RFIs because they slow it up overall, because the 12 days don't allow for time waiting for information, but the client only sees the total time, of course. So, but no, RFIs, the advisor just love to issue a consent, no RFIs, it's just easier, quicker, get it out the door, but it's just not possible on 84% of them. You also see that CCCs have issued slightly more than last year at the end of the job, so but pretty normal there.
over on page 54, 100% of the CCCs are co-compliant certificates are on time, so far this financial year. And, yeah, the average is 12 days for a CCC at the moment as well. On the inspections, you'll see that we do between 400 and 500 inspections a month. We pass about half of those, and the other half is either failed or passed with non-compliances that we can check on the next inspection. But you can see there that the fails have dropped off, but the pass not complete has moved up, which is probably a good sign that that the inspectors are working with the contractors to allow them to carry on, but we'll check it on the next inspection. Yeah, you'll see there that the value of building work dropped quite a bit in October, probably slightly less houses coming in October, but last October was one of the biggest months we've ever had, with close to $15 million worth of building work done, when compared to $7.5 million roughly of or 6.5 of building work in October this year. I've noticed the fixes. We issued 6 in October, and for the normal sort of stuff, where people have not obtained consents for work they've carried out. And yeah, so there's things like decks, laundries, second dwellings, sheds, and obviously tiny homes are going to appear all the time. So yeah. Yep, over on page 55.
So, sorry, Roy. Could I just ask, we've got no answer back or guidance back on the tiny house issue from Wellington yet?
Through the chair, they've taken it, they've accepted it, but they haven't allocated it to someone to process yet. So no, there's no update on that one yet. There's a bit of a backlog, I understand, and could take up to 12 months. So, but I'll chase it up. Yeah. Over on 55, page 55, certificates of acceptance. So this is basically the legal building work coming in to trying to make it legal. And as you can see, we get between 0 and 10 certificates of acceptance applications every month. And we have a large amount still in the system that can't be issued due to just not complying with the building code. And they get stuck in the system, which is the high line there, one's on hold. We have made a bit of an effort to try and get rid of some of them, but there's some in there that have been in there 6 years waiting for information, and it's got too hard for the owner. So, which is quite common. They've built something they really love, put all the effort into it, a lot of money, and then we go along and assess it, and it doesn't comply with building code. Quite a bit doesn't comply often.
So where does that end up, Kerry? What's the solution there?
It's a bit of a tricky one, because often we get told about these legal building works, we go out there and issue notice of fix, we say apply for a certificate of acceptance, then we can't issue the certificate of acceptance, so we refuse it. It goes back to the compliance team again, they issue another notice of fix saying to remove the building work because they aren't able to obtain a COA, and that's where a lot of them just sit there at the moment, because we don't go too much further than that at this stage, but technically that's the next step in enforcement with infringements or towards the court process. But the problem we have is a lot of that time has gone by, 6 months or more, or in one case 7 years have gone by. And so, yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one. The good thing is that they do stay on the file. So when it comes to them selling the property, they tend to get fixed quite quickly. Yeah. So, and sometimes we choose to do a non-enforcement, just leave it on the file, just sits there until they want to get it.
That's right. It does. There's a way of solving the demonstration. We do sort the ones out that are dangerous or unsanitary, but these ones are just wood sheds and the like that have just been built on the boundary and that sort of thing. Yeah. Robbie, you have a question?
No, that answers the question. I was going to say, where does it fit? Is it like trying to sell a car without a wire fence or something? When it comes to selling, is that when the catch up is?
Yeah, through the chair, I get a lot of calls from real estate agents, probably one a day, where they're trying to work out whether something has consent or not, and they're getting in early because they have to present the property the way it is, and they don't want to sell something that's got an illegal garage on it or something. So they're ringing us asking whether it's got a consent. I'll say probably not. So they're listing it as non-consented. Next thing you know, the owner's ringing me saying, "Can I get a COA?" And so it's kind of how it works. It works quite well. Just tidy it up, but it does tend to put a bit of a time crunch in, because sometimes the house is sold And then they're trying to sort it out.
Yeah.
You know, and gets really messy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just best to get a consent, that's what I say. Makes it easier. And topical information there, you see we've just had an IANZ audit in October. It didn't come that easy, to be honest. So we put over 1,100 administration hours into preparation, and which has achieved an excellent result though. So it has sort of told us that the more we put in, the better result we get. So we probably got the best result we've ever had with only 4 general non-compliances to resolve. We got 10 issued, we resolved 6 while they were here, which leaves 4 to complete in the next 3 months. And those 4, I'll just quickly go through them if you're interested. Number 1 is that when someone applies for amendment, we just send out a letter saying amendment's approved. IANZ are saying no, they're going to be treated the same as consent, so we've got to issue a building consent again for that amendment. So we can do that easy enough. There was some confusion with number 2 there about the dates that the timeframes for CCCs are recorded. We were taking it from a date that we issued on, but they say you can take the date that you want to grant it on, which is normally the day before. So minor thing, but we can change that. Number 3, which is probably a fair point, we don't have a great procedure for forecasting how much resources we need in our team to deal with ups and downs in the building industry. You know, it's either feast or famine often, and sometimes, yeah, we're not great at planning for the feast, and then people get held up. So we've got to come up with a procedure of how we're going to formalise how we're going to deal with that, either with contractors or extra people or whatever. Yeah, we just need a process to develop for that, which is number 3. And number 4, there were some minor issues identified with the competency assessments for a few of our guys, where the independent assessor that assesses our guys and girls didn't have enough evidence or didn't document it properly. So we've got to get a few of those redone, which I don't think is too much of a problem. So yeah, quite pleased with that result. And considering 2 years ago, well, 12 months ago, we were at threat of losing our accreditation. That's quite a bit of a turnaround. We had 5 serious non-compliances last time. We didn't get any this time, and we only have the 4 to sort out. So really good result. But yeah, so that's it for building. Property, yeah. You can see the work they've got underway in the planner. Yeah, it's probably all pretty self-explanatory. Probably good to see the men's shed and Amberley making some progress. They're getting close to getting a lease there, which has been a long-awaited thing for them. And there's a number of capital projects on 57 that we're currently working on. But move on to page 58. The limbs. We issued a lower amount of limbs in October, but we got an average of 2 days to get those out. So yeah, that's we issued quite a high amount the month before, so it's probably got back to normal in October. You'll see the social housing wait list. There's a big demand for social housing in Amberley still, and the occupancy of social housing is still high. We've got a couple of units that are vacant due to repairs and maintenance and upgrading. And speaking of that, on page 59, we have a couple of units that have been upgraded with new cylinders and kitchens and the like, flooring. They haven't been have any work done on them since 1998, so they were quite dated, but now they're being brought into the century at least. You'll see there on page 59, the fence has been put in at the Amberley yard, which is a big improvement down there, a lot more space and a lot safer with that hedge gone. And in the property maintenance there, you'll see that we had quite an expense with cleaning up the fire damage at Queen Mary with the contaminated waste that had to be taken to Cape Valley. And that is about it. Any questions?
All right, thank you. Amenities. That's you. That's all right. Thanks, Gary. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, sorry.
No, you're all good.
So Dan, page 60.
Yep, afternoon all.
Yeah, welcome. Take us through.
Yeah, so amenities, I won't run through the planner, all the details on the subsequent pages, so if we move on to page 61. Yeah, in terms of October, it was pretty normal sort of routine plans for the month, when you're looking at the number of tasks which got complete and also the number reactive, 16% reactive, sort of between 15 to 20. So I said, yeah, it was a pretty normal month, so the guys got a lot of tasks done, which is good. Moving on to page 62. In terms of the mowing, obviously there's been a lot more growth around the district, as to be expected. Contractors keep on top of it. I look at the audits, I think they've got a 4% failure rate, so it's pretty good, and the ones that we are highlighting, they're rectifying pretty much straight away, so that's good. So I think at the moment all's well, and yeah, we'll see how they go this month, but like I said, yeah, it's all looking promising.
Yeah, just on that mowing, I have made a comment with Hamish that he's written in his diary, just the mowing and wire and areas that aren't being done that should be done. So I think Hamish is following up on that. So. Correct, Hamish? Correct. Thank you.
The areas in the contract are.
Well, there should always have been, and it should still be in there.
Okay, so
But-
just yes,
Check, we'll check it out.
we'll check it out. Cool, that's fine. Yep, so that's going well. And in similar fashion, yeah, the public toilets, once again, looking at the audit results here, they're in excellent condition, which is really pleasing, as they'll be a lot busier as we get into the summer months.
Yeah, so the new contractor, it's all working out.
Working very well.
Yeah.
Very, very well. So no, we're happy with their performance. Like I said, yeah, the results speak for themselves. Moving on to page 63. In terms of interments, yeah, so for October, there was a reburial and 8 ashes. Interesting enough, Homeview had 7 of them, so I'm not sure why, but you know, just one of those things. And yeah, I guess in terms of the works update, so the next few pages have got photos of works all around the district. I think the domain was looking pretty good for the AMP show, so yeah, the team put a lot of work in there, and I think it was pretty well received. And yeah, a few other photos in there of some of the work's been done, just maintenance work at playgrounds. Obviously, they'll be a lot busier in the summer, so getting all them completed now. If there's no questions about amenities, I can move on to the.
The work done, you can see the photographs there of the big old slide now in the domain. Pass on, I think the contractor's done a good job there. He's really given a bit of the old Indiana Jones thing. You know, we weren't quite sure, we had a bit of an idea, but what he's come up with there and how he's done it, I think is a big success, because that old slide has been there for decades. And if anyone ever mentions about doing something with it, people come and know that's part of that playground. So I think this has really given it another lease of life. It's good.
Excellent. I'll pass that feedback on. Thank you. All right, so we'll move on to page 68, which is the program and capital report. So yeah, overall, the program's actually tracking along pretty well, as we forecast, with the number of projects completed slowly growing up. Obviously, that'll grow exponentially as we move towards the end of the financial year. So at the moment, tracking where we expect to be tracking, which is pleasing. As I normally do, I'll sort of highlight a few projects on each page, but once again, welcome any questions on any of the projects highlighted. So moving on to page 69. So the bottom project on here, increased storage capacity, that's for a new site in Waikari on Limeworks Road. So what we're doing there is installing a pump shed with the plan to build a new reservoir there next year. So that site's been all secured for the landowner. It's been fenced off, some of the pipe upgrades have been done, and we've just started building that pump shed today. So those works have kicked off, which is pleasing. So that one's progressing on really nicely. Moving to page 70, if there's no questions.
All good?
Yep. So Hurunui number one, there's a photo there in the plant. Yeah, so progress there has slowed up over the last sort of couple of months, which has been a bit frustrating. We're actually meeting with the contractor today to discuss that, amongst other things. But yeah, so they've been a bit slow to finish the final works around the dosing lines and also the electrical. But while they're doing those works, they're also doing the commissioning as we speak, so that they can do some of it, commission some, or some's not in operation. So yeah, meeting with them today to have a discussion around just finalising that program. At the moment, their current program shows mid-January. I'm not overly confident on mid-January because all it takes is a key person to have an extended holiday, and that will easily push into February. So we'll meet with them today and get some clear numbers. But once again, we're very close. It's just those finishing touches.
Yes, Robbie.
Oh, just preempting checking the minutes in the next meeting, the next time around. We've had a project completion delayed due to multiple factors. Namely, I think that's probably meant to be mainly. There's a different context goes with it, a bit, I mean. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Namely.
Does that sound right? A bit of it was mainly rather than namely.
So on that plant, you know, we appreciate that there's been an extra considerable extra cost associated with that plant that wasn't budgeted for. So, and looking at that bit of kit there, that doesn't seem like standard kit that is in the other plants. Or is that, are we looking at it from a different angle? Because that almost looks like a yeah, exactly. It does, yeah.
So yeah, that's an ultrafiltration plant. We try to avoid building, given the cost. Typically we use filters, so filter down to 5 microns and then 1 micron, and then go run through a UV. This here, with the high NTU from the river, that approach wouldn't work, and then the plant wouldn't be able to supply water over an extended period of time. So the ultrafiltration is the only way to get around that.
Okay. Oh, good. It's an impressive bit of pipe work there.
Yeah, looking forward to getting it done. So we're very close, but it's just been a bit slow.
Yes.
So we'll get you up there today. Moving on to page 71. So the water treatment at Kaiwara. So as you can see, the shed's nearly there.
So where is that shed, if you don't mind me asking?
That is off Cattle.
Yeah,
Cattle Road. So Don
Flat's
Flats property.
Yeah. Okay.
So your construction of that's pretty much there. The cladding's all on. The roller door is supposed to go on this week. So following that, we've already prefabricated a lot of the equipment. So we pretty much go and bolt it in, bolt the pumps in. So that in terms of the plumbing fit out, it won't take too long. And the electricians all geared up to go. So they've got a very, very busy 4 or 5 weeks ahead of them.
So where's that in relation to the existing kit? Let's see the pump.
So it's above, there's the existing sort of 10 pumps, 6 reservoirs above.
Oh, okay.
Site.
Okay.
One of this one, it took a while to secure the site.
Yeah.
Probably a wee bit further delayed within where we would be, but yeah, we've got agreement with the landowner and moved on, which is promising. So anyway, that's should be a high activity next week once this building's complete, which is great. Moving on to page 72. I feel I was talking about water treatment, but I'll carry on with water treatment. So this one here is the Wairoa, and we're nearly there. So this pad's now been filled up, backfilled, and there is now a reservoir sitting on top. So pretty much we just need to connect them in, install the generator for the site tomorrow, and we're pretty much done, which means we can commission the plant starting next week. So it'll be another one completed and commissioned before the end of the year, which is really good. Yeah, we're looking forward to having this one complete.
Yeah, certainly that one's impressive there because it's out of the ground.
Yeah. So one of the interesting one with this, and a number of the sites is obviously we build them for the 1 and 2 event. And when you see what the existing infrastructure is built at and what's required, you can look a bit out of place. And obviously we make it look as natural as we can, but that one is a bit out of the ground. Any other questions on the page 72 projects?
No, all good.
Page 73, there's a few stormwater projects here. So the top photo there is just off Osborne Road, up here in Amberley.
So what that's doing is creating a large swale drain which connects into a pipe network we installed last financial year. So those works have all been completed now. The property owner there is looking at doing a future subdivision, so he jumped in on our works and got some of his infrastructure installed as well. So it's worked well for them and for us, which is great. And also the project at the bottom, which is works on Conoco Hill Road, so the Conoco Hill and Denby intersection. We've got works there to install a couple of new manholes and sumps, which will mitigate a lot of the water which goes down Denby down to the lower properties. So those works should start either probably tomorrow, if not tomorrow, Thursday, which would be great to get that. It's been on the cards for a while. So. Any other questions on 73?
You want some good water, Robbie?
Yeah, lots of them on that one.
And page 74. Yeah, so just the Leadfield Pipe Bridge. So there's a little pipe bridge just down outside Leadfield on State Highway 1. So we'll just put a new crossing in there. So put a big bit of stainless pipe across there and shut down the sewer to connect in. And those works have been done late last week, which is good. So that's another project ticked off, which is pleasing to see. And the remainder of the report is highlighting some of the other projects which have been completed. And we also include the appendix now, which is going through ticking off some of the other projects. I don't go through and list all of them in grey, but they're there. So if there's any questions about any of them, otherwise that's our report for the month.
Any more questions? Thank you, Dan. Well, yeah, it's an impressive amount of capital expenditure that's on those pages there. Look, it's great to see good progress, and I'm really impressed with these sheds that are going in, and it must be great for the staff to work in an environment that's got some good kit in it, and you can get around the plant, and it's rather than in a poky little shed that we stop to get. So and it's future proofing our water network, so it's great. It all comes at a cost, but it's we've got something to show for it, which is fantastic. So thank you, keep up the good work, and thank the team at the back as well.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Where are we up to then? Is that us? Would somebody like to move? Oh, would somebody like to move the acceptance of these reports? And Robbie's second. Yeah. All those in favour say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Okay, so we're on to page 84, and when Robbie was sharing, he got this list down to quite a small list, so we might go even reduce it again.
Would you mind me going to add things back on?
So Kiwi Camp done? You had the site visit?
No, it got cancelled. There was some construction works happening there that meant it couldn't happen.
Okay, because that was a snow day for me, and I wasn't
So
there.
that'll get rescheduled.
Okay, so we'll keep that on.
Yep.
Okay. And this number 3 is actually being dealt with. Alex is going to zoom in.
Yes, it hasn't been dealt with yet, but it will be dealt with.
It will be. So it really can come off because it will be dealt with. I'm confident, but I'll make sure it's dealt with tomorrow night at our Amiry committee. So thank you. So there's nothing more to put on there. Well done, everybody. Thank you for your attendance. And if Hamish can let us know, it's 4 o'clock today is your Zoom.
4 o'clock today.
Here.
This is local water done well. You can either zoom in or you can come here. If you come here, Andreas Hauser from Castalia will